When they dragged me from the mangled wreck of my car, I was surprisingly lucid. Lucky even, just a broken left leg and a few nasty cuts. In the back of the ambulance, the first thing I did was call Isabella, my girlfriend of 7 years. The moment she picked up, I could hear the thumping bass of music in the background. Ethan, what's up? I'm in the middle of a client meeting. Her voice had an edge of impatience I knew all too well. I gritted my teeth against a wave of pain, trying to keep my voice steady. Bella, I was in an accident. I'm on my way to Metro General. Broken leg. The music in the background vanished. The line went silent for a few seconds, then her voice came back, tight with alarm. What? Is it bad? Oh my God. Hang on, I'm coming right now. After we hung up, a warmth spread through my chest, chasing away some of the cold shock. 7 years wasn't just a number. It meant something. No matter how busy she was, she dropped everything for me. At the hospital, it was a blur of ER, triage, x-rays, and getting my wounds cleaned. By the time they were done, I was exhausted. The doctor said I needed to be admitted immediately for surgery. Lying on the gurney, I looked at the text from Bella on my phone. Almost there. I'm right at the hospital entrance. Don't be scared, baby. Just as I was about to reply, my phone rang. It was her again. Ethan, I'm so sorry, she said, her voice dripping with apology. The client I was with, he's a big shot from corporate, just flew in. He specifically asked for me. I can't bail, Ethan, I just can't. This project is my entire Q4 performance. Can you handle the check-in yourself? Please? I'll Venmo you the money. I promise, the second I'm done here, I'll be there to take care of you. My blood ran cold. The pain in my leg was nothing compared to the ache blooming in my chest. It's fine, I said, my voice flat. You handle your work. I ended the call before she could say another word. A moment later, my phone buzzed. A Venmo notification. Isabella Rossi sent you $1,000. I stared at the number and let out a dry, humorless laugh. 7 years of my life, apparently worth a last-minute client and $1,000. Fighting through the pain, I hopped on one foot, leaning on a nurse to slowly make my way to the admissions desk. The line was long. I propped myself against the wall, feeling like a stray dog someone had just kicked to the curb. To kill time, I opened up Facebook, and then I saw it. A post from Caleb Vance, Isabella's childhood best friend, uploaded 5 minutes ago. The picture showed Isabella, head bowed in concentration, carefully dabbing a cut on Caleb's forearm with a cotton swab. The cut itself was a joke, a faint, paper-thin scratch you could barely see. But the look on Bella's face, the focused, tender concern, that was a look she'd never given me. The setting was a brightly lit private room in a high-end sushi bar, a place I recognized instantly. It was Kiku, where we always went for our anniversaries. Caleb's caption read, "Useless man award goes to me. Can't even slice sashimi without cutting myself. Good thing my Bella was here to save the day. She always takes the best care of me." My Bella. What a choice of words. What an important client from corporate. My hand holding the phone trembled with a rage I didn't know I possessed. Below the photo, a deafening silence from our mutual friends. No likes, no comments. The awkwardness was so thick you could feel it through the screen. Except for one. Calmly, deliberately, I hit the like button. Then, I opened my messenger app and sent Isabella the last text of our 7-year relationship. Guess every train wreck needs a conductor. You two are perfect for each other. Have a great life. Send. Then block contact. Clean. Final. I shut off my phone, took a deep breath, and stared up at the harsh fluorescent lights of the hospital. In that moment, I couldn't feel the throbbing in my leg anymore. My heart was completely numb. After finally getting checked in, I was left alone in a cold, sterile room. My phone was as silent as a brick. Isabella made no further attempt to contact me. Maybe she hadn't seen my text yet, or maybe she had, and just assumed I was throwing a tantrum, that I'd cool off and come crawling back like I always did. She was so used to it, leveraging my love for her like a weapon. She had no idea. This time, it was really over. The next morning, my parents drove in from out of state. The second my mom saw my leg in its heavy cast, her eyes filled with tears. How did this happen? And where's Isabella? Why isn't she here? I just shook my head, my voice detached. We broke up. My mom froze. What? What do you mean you broke up? You were about to get married. You just bought that condo together. Mom, some things just end. I didn't want to get into the details and make them worry more than they already were. My dad, ever the stoic one, put a hand on my mom's shoulder. He looked at me and said, "All right, it's your life, your decision. The most important thing now is to heal up. Don't you worry about the money." With my parents there, things started to feel manageable. They fussed over me, handling everything. And from Isabella, there was still nothing but silence. It wasn't until the third afternoon that her name finally popped up in my friend requests. She'd obviously realized I'd blocked her. I ignored it. A minute later, my phone rang. It was our mutual friend, Leo. "Ethan, dude, what the hell is going on with you and Bella?" he asked, his voice frantic. "She's losing her mind, man. She's been trying to find you everywhere. Says your phone won't go through." "Nothing's going on," I said coolly. "We broke up. That's all." "Broke up? Why? You guys were fine 2 days ago. Why don't you ask her who her important client was on the night of my accident? Ask her if his name was Caleb Vance." Leo went quiet on the other end. He was one of the people who'd seen that Facebook post. "Ethan, man, maybe it was just a misunderstanding. Leo, you're my friend. Don't make excuses for her. I'm tired. I gotta go." Not long after, the door to my room was thrown open with a bang. Isabella and her mother, Maria, stormed in. Bella's eyes were red and puffy, tear tracks staining her cheeks. She rushed toward me. "Ethan, why won't you answer my calls? Why did you block me? I couldn't find you. I was so scared." I looked at her, my face a mask of indifference. She was a stranger to me now. My mom immediately stood up, stepping between us. "Ms. Rossi, please. My son needs to rest." Maria pulled her hysterical daughter back, her expression one of pure annoyance as she glared at me. "Ethan, what is this all about? Isabella's been sick with worry over you, hasn't eaten or slept, and you just disappear? Is that how a man acts? You're going to throw away a 7-year relationship over some petty disagreement?" I laughed. A real laugh. "Petty? Ms. Rossi, I was in a car wreck with a compound fracture. She lied to me about meeting a critical client so she could go play nurse to her childhood crush over a paper cut. You call that petty?" Isabella's face went white. She grabbed my arm, her voice desperate. "Ethan, listen to me. It's not what you think. I really was there for a work thing. Caleb happened to be there with the client's company, and he cut himself. So I helped him. That post was just him being an idiot. I already yelled at him." She spun the story so quickly. Too bad it was full of holes. I stared at her coldly. "Keep going. What client lets you be called my Bella on their public Facebook page? What project negotiation takes place in a sushi bar while your boyfriend of 7 years is being loaded into an ambulance?" Maria's face tightened, but she doubled down. "So what if it was? Caleb and our Bella grew up together. They're like brother and sister. What's wrong with a little joke? Are you really that insecure? You'd break up with her over this, after she gave you the best years of her life. Gave me. It was the most absurd thing I'd ever heard. You know what? Why don't you ask your darling daughter who's been giving and who's been taking all these years?" I paused, my gaze shifting from her panicked face to her mother's imperious one. "I'm serious about this breakup. There's nothing left to say between us. All that's left is to sort out the assets." I looked directly at Isabella, my voice clear and sharp. "The condo we bought together. It has to be sold." At the mention of the condo, the color drained from both of their faces. That property was the last chain binding me to them, and it was their biggest prize. "Absolutely not," Maria shrieked. "Why should it be sold? The deed is in Isabella's name. We put $30,000 toward the down payment. It has nothing to do with you." Isabella clung to my hand, sobbing. "Ethan, you can't do this to me. That's our home. We were supposed to get married there, to spend the rest of our lives there. Have you forgotten?" I calmly pull my hand away. "Home? A place that means so little you'd abandon me for another man? That's not a home." I looked at Maria, my eyes like ice. "You're right about one thing. The deed is in Isabella's name. When we bought it, we used her first-time homebuyer status to get a better rate, since I already had my name on my parents' old place. I trusted her, so I agreed to put it in her name only. However, I said, my tone shifting, the down payment was $120,000. Your family put in $30,000. I put in $90,000. Of that 90 grand, 70 was my own savings from the last few years, and the other 20 was a loan from my parents. I have the bank statements for every single transfer. You." Maria's aggressive posture deflated instantly. I pressed on. "Besides the down payment, there's the mortgage. $1,200 a month for the past 2 years. I paid every single one of those installments myself. The renovations cost $50,000. Also me. I have receipts and bank records for all of it. Now that we're breaking up, she can have the condo, but she has to pay back every cent I put in with interest. That's $90,000 for the down payment, $28,800 for 2 years of mortgage payments, and $50,000 for the renovations. The total comes to $168,800. The room fell into a stunned silence. Isabella and her mother stared at me as if they'd never seen me before. In their minds, I was the loyal, obedient boyfriend who would do anything for Isabella. They thought all they had to do was cry, throw a fit, invoke our 7 years of history, and I would soften and fold just like always. They never imagined I could be this calm, this decisive, that I had already done the math. Ethan, you're heartless. Maria was trembling with rage. Our Isabella gave you the best 7 years of her life. How can you be so calculating? Calculating? I scoffed. Let's be reasonable here. If I were the one who had cheated today, you'd be trying to take me for everything I'm worth, wouldn't you? But because it's your daughter who's in the wrong, suddenly I'm the heartless one. She didn't do anything wrong. She was just helping a friend. You're the one making a big deal out of nothing. Fine. Let's say I am. I nodded, refusing to argue the point. In that case, there's even less to discuss. Let's just make a clean break, settle the accounts. $168,800. The sooner you pay me, the sooner I'm out of your lives for good. The shock finally wore off, and Isabella started shaking her head, tears streaming down her face. Ethan, I don't have that kind of money. Where would I get that much money? Please don't do this. Let's not break up, okay? I was wrong. I was so wrong. I'll never see Caleb again. I swear. Just give me one more chance. I'm begging you. Her sobs were genuinely pathetic. In the past, the sound would have broken my heart, and I would have pulled her into my arms. But now my heart was stone. A woman who would choose another man while I was seriously injured. Her tears were worthless. No money. I looked at her. Then sell the condo. In the current market, you could probably get $400,000 for it. After paying off the mortgage, there's more than enough to pay me back my share. You'll even get your family's $30,000 back, with some left over. No, we can't sell the condo. Maria shrieked again. The value is still going up. We'd be losing money if we sold now. Besides, that's Isabella's future home. Future home. I sneered. The man she's supposed to marry is standing right here, telling you it's over. What's she keeping it for? So Caleb can move in. That line was a dagger, and it hit its mark. The blood drained from Isabella's face. Ethan, she screamed, her voice cracking. How can you say that? Is that really what you think of me? What else am I supposed to think? I shot back. Your actions speak for themselves, don't they? My dad, who had been silent until now, finally stood up. He walked over to Isabella and her mother, his voice quiet but carrying an undeniable authority. Ladies, my son has made his position perfectly clear. We don't want to make this ugly, but we refuse to be taken for fools. That property was a joint effort from both our families. Since you two aren't going to make it, it's only fair to divide the assets based on contribution. If you agree, we can discuss the details amicably. If not, then we'll see you in court. And when that happens, the whole story will come out. That wouldn't be good for anyone, especially not for a young woman's reputation. My father's words were the final blow. Maria knew we were serious. She knew we had the evidence, and that if this went to court, they would lose. Not only would they be forced to pay up, but the story of Isabella's infidelity would get out, making it difficult for her to find someone else. Fine, fine, you win. Maria spat, her voice seething with resentment. We'll pay you the money, but we can't just pull over $160,000 out of thin air. You have to give us time. I nodded. You have 1 month. Give me the money within 1 month. Otherwise, I'm filing a lawsuit and having my lawyer put a lien on the property. Isabella just stared at me, her eyes filled with fear and a profound sense of unfamiliarity. She had probably never imagined that the gentle, accommodating man she knew could have such a ruthless side. She was scared. Scared of losing the condo she'd practically gotten for free. Scared of losing the human ATM machine who had always indulged her. And even more scared of facing the consequences of her own actions. But it was too late. The moment she chose to run to Caleb, there was no going back. Isabella and her mother left in disgrace. The hospital room was finally quiet. My mom looked at me, her expression a mix of worry and sadness. She sighed. Son, are you absolutely sure about this? I nodded, my resolve firm. Mom, I've been sure since the night of the accident. A woman who doesn't have you in her heart is a liability you can't afford to keep. Over the next few days, I focused on healing while preparing for the worst-case scenario. I contacted a lawyer friend who specialized in real estate disputes and compiled all my bank statements, text message logs, and mortgage payment records into an ironclad chain of evidence. After reviewing it, he told me the case was a slam dunk. The only potential issue was that since the deed was in Isabella's name, she could try to argue that my $90,000 contribution was a gift. While a court would likely see through that, it would complicate the proceedings and drag things out. Don't worry, I told him. She will. Knowing Maria, they would never give up money they considered theirs without a dirty fight. Sure enough, a week later, I got a call from Isabella. Her voice was weak and pitiful. Ethan, can we meet? There are some things I want to talk about in person. I agreed. We decided on a coffee shop near the hospital. My dad pushed me there in my wheelchair. Isabella came alone. She'd lost weight, and there were dark circles under her eyes. When she saw me in the wheelchair, her own eyes immediately welled up. Ethan, your leg. Let's just get to the point, I said, cutting her off. Her fake sympathy was nauseating. She bit her lip and pulled a document out of her purse, pushing it across the table. This is an agreement, she said. Ethan, I know I was wrong, but can't we go back to how things were? Look, this is my repayment plan. I know I can't pay you back all at once, so I was thinking I could rent out the condo and use the income to pay you in monthly installments. I'll figure out the rest. Okay. I picked up her so-called repayment agreement and almost laughed out loud. In the document, she acknowledged a debt to me, but conveniently failed to specify the amount. It only stated she was willing to use future rental income to do her best to repay me. It was a completely worthless piece of paper with no legal standing. Even more ridiculous was the final clause. As a gesture of good faith, I voluntarily agreed to grant Mr. Ethan Cole 10% of any future appreciation in the value of said property. What a generous offer, using my own money to buy a property, and if it appreciated, she would gift me 10% of the profits. I was supposed to be grateful, but I saw the trap hidden beneath the surface. If I signed this, I would be implicitly agreeing that the condo was her sole property and my investment was merely a personal loan to her, not a contribution to a joint purchase. The legal nature of the money would be completely transformed. I tossed the papers back onto the table. Isabella, cut the crap. Do you think I'm an idiot? Her face stiffened, and the tears started flowing again. Ethan, no. I just wanted to. You want to stall for time, I said, my voice like steel. You wanted to placate me with this worthless piece of paper while setting a legal trap. I'm telling you now, it's not going to happen. You have 1 month, not a day more. Either you pay me, or you sell the condo. The choice is yours. Just then, the door to the coffee shop opened, and Caleb walked in. He strode over to our table and looked down at me in my wheelchair, a contemptuous smirk on his face. Ethan, give a rest. A grown man, haggling with a woman over money? It's pathetic. He rested his hand on Isabella's shoulder, a clear gesture of ownership. Bella said she'll pay you back. What more do you want? Do you want to destroy her? Isabella didn't push his hand away. She just lowered her head, tacitly accepting his intervention. That single moment extinguished the last flicker of doubt in my mind. My dad shot to his feet, glaring at Caleb. Who the hell are you? Nobody asked for your opinion. Caleb chuckled. I'm Bella's boyfriend. Her business is my business. He said it with such unapologetic arrogance. I looked up at Isabella. She finally met my gaze, her eyes pleading and helpless, as if to say, see, this is how things are now. Just let me go. A slow smile spread across my face. I looked at both of them, nodded, and said, all right, in that case, let's stop wasting time. I took my briefcase from my dad, pulled out another document, and slapped it down on the table. This is a promissory note for the $20,000 my parents lent me to help with the down payment. It has my signature and my fingerprint. Black and white, crystal clear. Isabella and Caleb stared at it, confused. I continued in a calm, deliberate tone. To support us, my parents gave us their retirement savings. But that money wasn't a gift to us. It was a loan to me. It is my personal premarital debt. According to property law, when parents help a child buy a home before marriage, unless it's explicitly stated as a gift to the couple, it's considered a gift to their own child. But in this case, I have a signed loan agreement. The nature of this money is unambiguous. It's not a gift, it's a debt. My own personal debt from before the marriage. I watched their faces grow paler and paler, the smile on my own face widening. That condo, even though it's in your name, was purchased during our relationship with the express purpose of marriage. Now that we're breaking up, it's considered a disputed joint asset. My total contribution of $90,000 makes me the majority investor, not to mention the renovations and mortgage. And of that $90,000, $20,000 is a legally defined personal debt. Now I want my money back, especially that $20 grand. It's not a gift. It's a loan. It doesn't even fall under the umbrella of joint property. Your condo was purchased using my personal debt. Do you understand? This means before we even begin to talk about splitting assets, you have to repay that $20,000 with interest to my parents first. That is the real starting point of this negotiation. As for that worthless agreement of yours, you can take it home and use it as kindling. This was my first counterattack. I was betting that they assumed the $20,000 from my parents was a gift, just like the $30,000 from their family. But my parents, ever cautious, had planted this seed of protection long ago. They never fully trusted a relationship where I was putting everything on the line, so they insisted I sign the note. I thought they were being paranoid at the time. Now, it looked like a stroke of genius. The color drained completely from Isabella's face. She looked at me in horror, as if seeing a monster for the first time. Caleb was stunned into silence. He clearly hadn't anticipated this complication. They thought they could use the ambiguity of a gift to stall, confuse the issue, and maybe even turn the tables on me. They never imagined I had an ace up my sleeve. That flimsy piece of paper was the final straw that broke their confidence. It proved that, from the very beginning, I wasn't the fool they could manipulate at will. You planned this. Isabella pointed a shaking finger at me. I smiled. Learn from the best. You and your mother. The appearance of the promissory note shattered Isabella and Caleb's illusions. They knew they couldn't dodge this debt or drag it out any longer. A signed loan agreement was the strongest possible evidence. If this went to court, they didn't stand a chance. Caleb's face was grim. He pulled a shell-shocked Isabella to her feet, muttered, "You'll be hearing from us," and they hurried out of the coffee shop. My dad looked at me with a newfound respect in his eyes. "Not bad, kid. Guess we didn't raise a complete idiot." I gave him a wry smile. If I had the choice, I would have preferred to never have to use that document. Things seemed to be moving in the right direction. However, I had underestimated just how shameless they could be. A few days later, my lawyer called. "Ethan, they've hired counsel. We just received a letter." "Oh, so they've come to their senses and are ready to pay?" "No," my lawyer said, his tone serious. "They're proposing a new plan. They acknowledge your financial contribution and the $20,000 loan. But now, they're demanding a formal appraisal of the property's current market value." I frowned. What does that mean? It means they're framing this as a joint investment, which should have shared risks and shared rewards. When you bought the place, the total down payment was $120,000. They put in 30, which is 25%. You put in 90, which is 75%. So, they're only willing to split the proceeds from the sale according to that ratio. I instantly understood their vicious little scheme. They're betting the property value has dropped. Exactly, my lawyer confirmed. They've done their research. A garbage incinerator project was recently approved for construction nearby, and property values in that neighborhood have taken a hit. If you sell at the current market price, after paying off the mortgage, the remaining equity might not even cover your total investment. With this tactic, they want to force you to absorb the loss from the market downturn, minimizing the amount they have to pay you back. A brilliant move. Shared risk. What a great sounding plan. I was the one who bought the condo for her, the one who paid the mortgage, the one who funded the renovations. Now that we were breaking up, if the value had gone up, she would have kept it all. But since it went down, she wanted me to share the loss. The audacity was breathtaking. "They're dreaming," I said coldly. "My contribution was a gift in contemplation of marriage. Since the marriage is no longer happening, the condition of the gift is void, and my money should be returned in full. There are legal precedents for this. Trying to split it like a business investment is insane." "Legally, you're right," my lawyer cautioned. "But you know how it is. A lawsuit takes time. And once litigation begins, the asset will be frozen. You won't be able to sell it, and the risk of the value dropping further is real. They're betting that you're afraid of the hassle, afraid of losing more money, and that you'll eventually accept their offer, even at a loss." I fell silent. He was right. That's exactly what I was afraid of. The longer this dragged on, the more variables could come into play. I had to end this fast. I needed to get my money and start my new life. After hanging up, I sank into thought. This wasn't a plan Isabella and Maria could have come up with. Someone with more business savvy was advising them. It had to be Caleb. His family owned a business, and while it wasn't huge, he would have picked up a thing or two about these kind of disputes. They were circling like wolves, trying to tear off another piece of me. Legal threats were no longer enough. I had to find something that would crush them completely, something that would strip them of the courage to even bargain. I needed a kill shot. I closed my eyes and replayed the last 7 years in my mind. Isabella, what was her greatest weakness? What did she care about more than anything? Besides money, besides that condo, what was the one thing she absolutely could not afford to lose? Her career. Of course. It was her career. Isabella was intensely ambitious. The excuse she used to abandon me for Caleb was a critical client tied to her Q4 performance. She had worked her ass off at that company for 5 years to climb to the position of associate director of her department. She valued that job more than anything. What if something were to happen to her job? An idea, like a bolt of lightning, flashed through my mind. The renovations. The $50,000 for the renovations was all my money. At the time, I was swamped with work, so Isabella handled most of the logistics, liaising with the contractors. She seemed unusually dedicated to the project, managing every little detail herself. I remember feeling touched, thinking she was building our future. But looking back now, could there have been something else going on? That $50,000 was transferred in installments to a joint checking account. She held the debit card for that account and was responsible for paying all the invoices. I immediately called my dad. Dad, I need you to do something for me. Find a good private investigator. The faster, the better. To investigate what? A person, I said, my voice ice cold. And an account. I need to know exactly where the money for our condo renovation went. The private investigator was incredibly efficient. 3 days later, a thick report was delivered to my hospital bed. I read through it, page by page. A cold fury built inside me, and by the end, my hands were shaking, not from rage, but from sheer disgust. I finally understood why Isabella had been so dedicated to the renovation. The $50,000 had indeed been spent, but of that amount, at least $20,000 had been funneled to a very unexpected place, Caleb Vance's company bank account. The report included clear copies of the bank statements. From my and Isabella's joint account, 5 separate transfers, ranging from $3,000 to $5,000 each, totaling $20,300, were made to a company called Aura Digital. The registered owner of that company was, of course, Caleb Vance. The transfers were made over the 3-month period of our renovation last year. The memos on the transfers were cleverly disguised: final design fee, materials procurement, custom furnishing deposit, all perfectly plausible renovation expenses. It was a seamless deception. Without a targeted investigation, no one would have ever suspected that the money wasn't going to a contractor, but into the pocket of her childhood crush. The report also included a background check on Aura Digital. It was a startup, less than 2 years old, ostensibly developing some kind of social media app. But the project was stalled, and the company was bleeding money. Right around the time of our renovation, it was facing a catastrophic cash flow crisis and was on the brink of collapse. My $20,000, my sweat and blood, had been its lifeline. Isabella had used the money meant for our future home to plug the holes in her lover's failing business. This went far beyond simple emotional betrayal. This was embezzlement. This was fraud. This was treating me like a complete and utter fool, siphoning my life savings to prop up her and her dear friend. I took a deep, shuddering breath, forcing down the waves of rage and nausea. This was not the time to lose control. I had the trump card, a card that could send them straight to hell. I didn't contact Isabella immediately. Instead, I had my lawyer continue to negotiate with hers, feigning hesitation and anxiety over their shared risk proposal. I wanted them to think their plan was working, that I was genuinely worried about the falling property values, and was weighing my options. I needed them to lower their guard, to become arrogant. A week later, their lawyer contacted mine again, his tone aggressive and uncompromising. He said that if I didn't accept their terms, they were prepared to drag the legal proceedings out for as long as it took. Let the property be frozen by the court, and we could all share in the losses together. The message was dripping with menace. The time had come. I had my dad arrange a meeting with Isabella, Maria, and Caleb, the same coffee shop as before. I told them I'd had a change of heart and was willing to discuss the shared risk proposal in person. They took the bait. When we met again, their arrogance was palpable. Caleb, in particular, sat next to Isabella with his legs crossed, wearing the smug expression of a victor. "Ethan, it's good you've come to your senses," he said with a smirk. "You have to know when to fold. No point in making things ugly for everyone over a little money, right?" Maria chimed in. "Exactly. We're all respectable people. A peaceful resolution is best for everyone. Don't you worry. If we split it by percentage, we'll make sure you don't get cheated." Isabella kept her head down, saying nothing. But the look of relief on her face said it all. They thought I had caved. They thought they had won. I smiled and motioned for my dad to push me closer to the table. "You're right, Caleb. You have to know when to fold." I looked him straight in the eye, my meaning clear. "But before we talk about the condo, I'd like to talk about your company." Caleb's expression flickered. Isabella's head shot up, her eyes wide with confusion and dread. I ignored them, calmly flipping through the report until I reached the copies of the bank statements. I pointed to the transfer records, reading each detail out loud. Between June and August of last year, a total of 5 transfers, amounting to $20,300, were made from the joint renovation account held by myself and Isabella Rossi to your company's account. So, Mr. Vance, could you please explain? What kind of design fees and material costs were these? I wasn't aware Aura Digital had expanded into the home renovation business. It was as if a bomb went off in their heads. The color drained from Isabella's face, leaving it a ghostly white. She stared at me in disbelief, her lips trembling, unable to form a single word. Caleb shot up from his chair, pointing a finger at me, his voice a mix of fury and fear. You investigated me? That's an invasion of privacy. That's illegal. Illegal. I let out a cold laugh. Compared to you and Ms. Rossi conspiring to embezzle my personal assets, which is felony fraud, I think my little investigation is pretty tame. You're lying. Isabella finally found her voice, her words coming out as a shriek. That money. I lent it to Caleb. It was my money. Your money. I looked at her with something approaching pity. Isabella, have you forgotten? Every single cent in that joint account was transferred there by me. The purpose was clearly stated. Renovation funds. You, without my consent, misappropriated those dedicated funds and transferred them to your lover's company. If I take this evidence to the police, do you really think they're going to believe it was your money? Maria was completely stunned, her jaw hanging open. She gaped at her daughter, then at Caleb. Bella, is this true? Isabella was shaking uncontrollably, unable to speak. At this point, any denial was useless. I delivered my final ultimatum. Right now, I am giving you two choices. My gaze swept over their three ashen faces. 1. We go to the police. I filed charges against both of you for embezzlement and fraud. $20,000 is grand larceny. Once convicted, Isabella, as the primary party, you're looking at a minimum of 3 to 10 years in prison. And you, Mr. Vance, as the beneficiary, you won't get off scot-free either. Your precious or a digital will be dragged into a criminal investigation. How long do you think it will stay afloat then? Caleb's legs gave out, and he nearly collapsed. Isabella was shaking like a leaf, tears pouring down her face in silent streams. No, please, Ethan, I'm begging you, don't call the police. She whimpered. I'll give you the money back. I'll give it back right now. Too late, I said flatly, then laid out the second choice. 2. We settle this privately. I looked at them like a hunter cornering its prey. You will put the condo on the market immediately. I don't care what price you list it at, but it must be sold within 1 month. After paying off the bank mortgage, the proceeds must first be used to repay my entire initial investment in full, $168,800. Not 1 penny less. Furthermore, I added, my voice dropping to a low, dangerous tone, the $20,300 you stole from me will be repaid double. That's $40,600. Consider it compensation for my emotional distress and interest accrued. For every day you are late, I will add another $1,000 in interest. The two sums together total $209,400. Once I have that money, I will consider this matter closed. Otherwise, I'll see you in court, and I'll be sure to invite the police to join us. The coffee shop was dead silent. Isabella, Caleb, and Maria looked like ghosts, their souls sucked out of them. They could never have imagined I was holding this kind of card. They thought the property dispute was a civil matter. The worst that could happen was a drawn-out lawsuit and paying me some money. They never dreamed I would uncover the renovation scheme, elevating the entire affair from civil dispute to a criminal conspiracy. It was a checkmate. On one side, financial ruin. On the other, prison time. It wasn't a difficult choice. We'll pay. Maria's voice trembled. She looked as if she had aged 10 years in 10 minutes. We'll pay. Please, just don't go to the police. Caleb, the defeated rooster, hung his head in silence. He knew it was over. He couldn't even produce the original $20,000, let alone double. This debt would fall squarely on Isabella's shoulders. Isabella looked at me, her eyes a swirling vortex of despair, regret, and raw fear. She finally understood. The man who had once been her devoted doormat, the man she thought she had wrapped around her finger, was gone forever. In his place stood a calm, rational, and utterly ruthless stranger. At long last, she was truly and completely afraid. The rest of the process was surprisingly smooth. Under the immense pressure of potential criminal charges, Isabella's family didn't dare delay. They put the condo up for a fire sale, selling it for $15,000 under market value, just to get it done quickly. The moment the funds cleared, they paid off the mortgage and transferred $209,000 for $100 in my account. On the day the last of the paperwork was signed, Isabella asked to see me one last time. Same coffee shop, but this time she was alone. She looked even more haggard than before. Her once vibrant and polished appearance was gone, replaced by an aura of exhaustion and defeat. You got the money, right? Her voice was raspy. I nodded, saying nothing. Caleb's company. It went under, she said with a bitter laugh. To scrape together the money for you, I had to sell my car. I'm still buried in debt. My parents got so sick from the stress, they had to be hospitalized. And I lost my job. That was news to me. Apparently, word of her embezzling funds had somehow reached her company. She was fired immediately for ethical violations. I just don't understand, she said, lifting her head to look at me, her eyes red-rimmed. Ethan, did you ever even love me? I looked at her, holding her gaze for a long time. There was a time when the answer to that question would have been an instant, unthinking yes. Now it just sounded ridiculous. I did, I said calmly. I loved you when I was wrecked on the side of the road, calling you from the back of an ambulance. I loved you when I was hopping on one leg, trying to handle my own hospital admission paperwork. I loved you when I felt like the entire world had abandoned me, and I still thought that if you just showed up, everything would be okay. But, Isabella, my voice turned to ice the moment you chose to lie to me, to abandon me for Caleb and his stupid little scratch. You killed that love yourself. Don't blame this on anyone else. You made your choice. Now you have to live with the consequences. After saying that, I didn't give her another look. I turned my wheelchair, and with my dad's help, I left the coffee shop. Behind me, I could hear her suppressed, gut-wrenching sobs. I didn't look back. A month later, my leg had healed, and the cast came off. With the money I got back, plus some help from my parents, I bought a small condo in a new development outright with cash. With what was left, I registered my own LLC and started the design studio I'd always dreamed of. Life was finally back on track, heading in a new, hopeful direction. One day, I was having dinner with Leo, and he filled me in. Isabella and Caleb had a nasty breakup. Not only did Caleb not help her repay a single cent, but he also started bad-mouthing her to anyone who would listen. She was now renting a room in a rundown apartment in a bad neighborhood, working odd jobs to pay off her debts. Life was hard. She had apparently tried to get back in touch with me through Leo. He sent me a screenshot of her message. I looked at the familiar profile picture and the friend request notification that read, "I'm sorry. Can we start over?" A small, faint smile touched my lips. Then I hit decline. Outside my window, the sun was shining and the birds were singing. I took a deep breath, savoring the feeling of freedom and a new beginning. Some things, once they're broken, are gone forever. As for the woman who had nearly destroyed me, her fear, her regret, whether her future was bright or bleak, none of it was my concern anymore. A betrayer must pay the steepest price for their actions. That, in the end, is the only real justice for those who hold the line.